In this video, we're going to show you how to replace an outside CV boot on your Ford Focus. This will be located behind the wheel on the axle. Let's get started. Using a 19mm socket, remove the 4 lug nuts. Remove the wheel. Using a 32mm socket, remove the axle nut. Using a hammer and a punch, or an air hammer, we're going to push the axle through the hub. If you don't have a punch to get inside the hole, be sure to put the axle nut a few threads on so you don't mushroom the axle. Be sure the axle moves freely inside of the hub. Using a 13mm wrench, we're going to hold the head of the bolt while using a 15mm socket to remove the nut. Using a hammer and a punch, we're going to remove the bolt. Remove the bolt. Using a hook and a pry bar, we're going to pry down on the control arm and remove it from the knuckle. Using a 13mm socket, remove the 2 nuts. Remove the bracket. Pull the knuckle outwards. As you do this, pull the axle inward. Remove the axle from the knuckle. Using a pry bar, using the bracket as a pinch point, we're going to push the axle out. When you do this, be ready for fluid to come out of the transmission. It's good to have a catch bucket. Remove the axle. It's a good idea to take a look at your axle seal. Look up inside of here. Check this rubber. Make sure it's not ripped or torn. If there's rips or tears, we recommend replacing it. Ours looks good, so we'll reuse it. I have our axle set up in a vise, and now we'll start taking the clamps and boots off. I'm going to take a flat blade screwdriver, get inside the clamp. I'm going to try and reuse these clamps. We're going to try and open them without breaking them. Trying to spread them apart. Once you get it spread apart, it'll pop off the tab. Remove the clamp. Do the same thing on the bottom one. Remove the top half shaft. Remove the lower clamp. I'm dumping all the old grease into a bin. Using a pair of snap ring pliers, we're going to remove the snap ring. Used a flat blade screwdriver to help me pop the clip off. Remove the outside assembly. Try to keep this oriented the way it was. We're going to try and put it back on the same way it came off. The roller assembly removed, remove the inside boot. Do the same thing with the clamps on the outboard side. Since we're replacing these, we don't have to worry about keeping them. You can just cut these off. Pull the boot down off the axle. Remove the boot. We're going to clean the old grease out of the axle. Get as much out as you can. Install the new boot. When you push this new boot on, be sure that the rim lines up with the groove on the axle. The boot will kind of click into it right there. Install the clamp onto the boot. To tighten the clamp, grab the tail end. I'm using a pair of pliers to hold the middle section. Once you get it close, I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to slowly twist them, tightening the clamp as I do it. Get the clamp tight enough that it doesn't move around the boot. Once you have it nice and tight, flatten the band. And then close the two tabs around the band. Cut off the remaining tail. Take the packet of grease, cut the corner off, and we're going to load this into the end of the axle. I like to put about half in, get the boot over, and then slightly work it around. Pull it back down, and then add the other half. Get the boot installed over the axle. These particular boots are cut to fit. On this axle, we need to get it up to the second rim for it to fit properly. So we're going to be looking for this edge to be sitting around the cup of the axle. We're going to take a razor blade and we're going to cut this top edge right here. I'm going to get the boot installed where I want it, using a pair of needle nose pliers to help me pull. If you use any tools on this boot, be very careful not to rip it or tear it. Install the clamp around the boot. Make sure the boot is fully seated. We're going to tighten our clamp down. Get it so it doesn't move. Tap it down into place. Get the locking tabs tapped. Cut off the tail. I'm going to peen down the sharp edge. Take a pointed punch. We're going to punch right on the end. Do this on the top and bottom. This will just help lock the clamp in. Since we didn't use the outside ring of the boot, we're going to take our razor blade and go around the inside of this groove. Very carefully cut around the outside of the boot. Remove the excess. Using parts cleaner and a rag, I'm just going to clean the excess grease off the end of the shaft. Install the boot. Install the roller assembly. Install the snap ring. Get one side started and then roll it over with a flat blade screwdriver. Be sure that it's locked in. Install the clamp around the bottom of the boot. Secure the clamp. Get the clamp locked to itself. Then taking a pair of boot clamp pliers, we're going to pinch it. Get it nice and tight. We're going to use a bit of grease and put it inside of the boot. We're also going to take a bit and put it inside of the cup. Line up the axles and get them installed. I'm going to take this out of the vise to put on the clamp. Install the clamp around the boot. Get the clamp locked on itself. Pinch it with the boot clamp pliers. Make sure it's nice and snug. Then the axle's ready to go back into the car. Install the new axle. Get it lined up. Make sure that these splines are lined up. Then push the axle in. Install the bracket and get the nuts started. Snug the nuts down. Install the axle into the hub. Get the splines lined up. Pull the control arm down. And install it into the knuckle. Install the ball joint bolt. Install the nut on the back side. Hold the head of the bolt. Snug the nut down. Torque the nut to 46 foot-pounds. Install the axle nut. Snug the nut down. Using a punch, we're going to put it inside of our brake rotor, and this will hold it while we torque our axle nut. Torque the axle nut to 199 foot-pounds. Remove the punch. Install the wheel. Install the lug nuts. Get them started by hand. Snug the nuts down. Torque the lug nuts to 94 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. And you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.